Hello there. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to ask a short favor. If you're interested in either of the two books that I have written and am about to release, head on over to my website at theanxioustruth.com/books. There you can learn about both books, one of which is free, and you can get on my mailing list to be notified when each book is released and how you can get it. I would really appreciate that. Okay, let's get rolling.
Hey, what's up, guys? Drew here, thatanxietyguy.com. New guest today, my friend Andrew DeLuca from all the way from sunny Las Vegas. How sunny is it out there? Like, it's got to be better than here.
It's like, I think 60, so it's pretty nice.
Doable. Like 0 here today in New York, but I'm not complaining because what's going on in the Midwest is ridiculous. So
Yeah, I'll pass on the -50 wind chill. Yeah, I've been hearing.
What is up with that? So anyway, for those of you who are in the Facebook discussion group, you know Andrew. He makes some really awesome like progress and exposure videos that are like so incredibly helpful to so many people. And I thought we would chat for like a half hour or so today. We'll talk about kind of where you've been, where you're going, where you're at. We'll take some questions that were in the group. And of course, as always, if you're not in the group, follow the link in the description wherever you happen to be watching and join the group. It's a good group of people, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
I think the reason why it's useful to do this, and I really appreciate you taking 30 minutes of your day to do it, is, you know, people can listen to me all day long, and I've been kind of in recovery mode for years and years and years. And then we had Jackie, who's also kind of on the other side. But it's nice to hear from people who are in it, you know, so in the middle of it like you are. And the fact that you're willing to share is like awesome. So I cannot thank you enough for this. Yeah, for being so transparent, so willing to share and all that stuff. So give us like the Reader's Digest version. Like, where did you start? Give me like the 2-minute version of like, what's your story? What's your story, dude? Tell me your life.
Tell me your life. 2 minutes though. All right. All right. You know, honestly, I had panic attacks as a kid, but I didn't really know what they were. I was anytime like I would get into like some really like bad trouble, I was a little shit as a kid. So I would have panic attacks, and again, I didn't know what they were. I'd just be really fearful. And then fast forward into shortly after I graduated high school, I had a really bad panic attack on the highway here in Las Vegas. We have a bridge system called the Spaghetti Bowl, and I was on the highest bridge, and it is a very narrow bridge, and I just hit like just like it was like a parking lot. And I'm up on this high bridge, and I just went into a panic attack. I didn't know what was going on. I remember I called my mother, and I'm freaking out. And slowly but surely that got the ball rolling on avoidance. I immediately avoided that bridge, started avoiding the highway. It kind of let up for a while. I moved to Washington State for a short time, and then I came back home. I was good for about a year, and then it just started happening constantly. So I started avoiding going across town. Then it was going, you know, halfway through town. All of a sudden, I just could only get to work and back. And then the market crashed and everything happened. And I actually lost my job, and I was unemployed for like 8 months, and I wasn't leaving the house, and I became completely sedentary, or not sedentary, completely just unable to leave. You know, and then I just kind of became an agoraphobic. You know, occasionally I could leave, I could do small things very, very nearby. I was missing everything. I missed so many events, birthdays, weddings. I actually missed Christmas, which is a huge thing in our family. And I ultimately had to move to my parents' side of town. I actually live in the same neighborhood as them now, just so I would stop missing family events. And then, and then just before I joined this group, you know, again, I said in the video, I was a content agoraphobic. You know, I run my own business out of my house doing those things. I had a panic attack that was just super bad, and or super bad the way I reacted to it, and it just scared the crap out of me, and it threw me into this dark whirlwind, like just sensitized state. And I was lost for months now, just like a lot of people in the group. And then ultimately I found you and your channel, and then joined the group, and had a couple very brief conversations through the comments with you, and just said, all right, this is what I got to do. And I got started, and here I am now.
And you're much further down the road. So you wouldn't necessarily call yourself recovered right now. You're in the process.
No. I mean, I would say that I'm pretty recovered from that sensitized state that I was in.
Okay.
But the agoraphobia part, I don't consider myself an agoraphobic anymore, just because I'm not avoiding the way that I used to. I'm definitely not homebound anymore. I'm out. I've been out 3 times today. I'll probably go out another 3 times this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm still working kind of like within about a 2.5, 3 mile radius, but every single day is I have exposure work where I'm going out and I'm facing some fear. Other ones, it's not really exposure, it's more just kind of continuing to go out and being as normal as possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you remember when I first joined this group, we're talking my first real exposure was going to the gas station, which I can throw a baseball and hit it from my house, and that was terrifying. And
Right.
now I'll go in there. I go in there every single day. I've actually made friends with the clerks, and I'll go in there just to hang out and talk. And like Jay and Silent Bob, I kind of just sit.
Oh, I love it, Silent Bob.
Exactly. I'm just sitting out there. I started out as Silent Bob. I didn't say a word when I went in there. Now I'm a little bit more like Jay, and
Yeah, you Jay.
Exactly.
I will pay for video of you doing the song in front.
Exactly.
That's
Snoochie
great.
boochies.
That's exactly right. That's awesome. So, I mean, obviously, from a tiny little, 100 yards, couple hundred yards, if you could throw a baseball at the gas station, to now a couple of miles, a few miles. I mean, that's a 500% increase in your radius for sure. And I'm guessing that, like, at this point, maybe you're in 2.5 or 3 miles, but if you had to go to 5 miles today, way easier to do those extra 2 miles than it was to do those first 200 yards to the gas station.
Absolutely.
6 months ago, whenever that was.
That, and I've gotten so much better at dealing with anticipatory anxiety that now, I mean, most of the time how I dealt with that is if I felt any anxiety, like I got up, I'm like, oh, I got to go to the store today, or I got to do this. I would just be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go right now. I'm just going to do it because I don't want to be thinking about it all day.
Right.
Now I've kind of learned to just, if the thoughts come up that, oh, this is going to be hard, this is going to be terrible, it's just like, you know what, I'll just deal with it when I get to it. But right now I've got other things to do. I'm going to take care of that. And then if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah. And that's that focus thing that we talk about a lot. So as you went into the fear, I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but as you went into the fear and sort of unmasked it and knew that you don't have to really be afraid of those feelings anymore, it becomes a whole lot easier to take those thoughts like, oh no, I got to go to the mall today, and like just say, well, F it, I will think about that later, because you're not so, like you might know, like, well, I'm going to be uncomfortable doing that, but it's not this terrifying specter looming in front of you anymore.
Yeah, no, it's just, I know what to expect, especially considering you're practicing so much. I've just, I know kind of what I'm going to feel. I kind of know what thoughts are going to be there. I know what's going to happen. And now it's kind of automatic. Like when those thoughts come up, I keep going. The only thing that I sometimes have to be mindful of is just make sure I'm not white knuckling it. Like I'm not clenching the heart. I'm not, a thing with me is in the beginning, I used to carry pills with me. And I used to always have I'd have pills in my pocket and I have my phone in my hand. Now it's just like, you know what? I haven't carried the pills in months. Sometimes even for more practice, I'll leave the phone in the car purposely. Just like, I don't need it. I've never called for help. So why hold on to the crutch? Just, I don't need it. And on top of it, if it kind of intensifies it and makes it more, well, then, it's like adding 5 more pounds to the bar. Well, let's do some work. Let's get it done.
Right. Exactly. And that's that misconception that says I have to have the phone so that I can call for help when I need it. But in reality, you never really needed help. Like even on that bridge, even on the spaghetti bowl, right? Like you really didn't need to call for help. I mean, it obviously makes sense that you did. Everybody would in that circumstance. It's your first time, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, you could probably look back in retrospect and say, well, even if I didn't call for help and just sat there, you would have still been here today.
Yeah. If anything, if I had just probably not picked up the phone, if I had just kind of let it go, let it do its thing, and then kind of just, what the hell was that? That was really weird, you know? And the smart move would have been if I had actually talked to people about it and figured out what it was. Maybe I wouldn't have let it escalate so much, but
makes sense. And getting back to the horse, like right away, going right back to that place. But hindsight is 2020, and so many people in this situation, our situation, would say that same thing, like, "Oh, finally knew." But the problem
Yeah.
is we don't know, so you had to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit before, and we're going to take questions because people asked some really good questions that they were hoping you would answer. But let's talk a little bit about what it took, like, to go from the point where you sort of understood what you had to do, and then actually like really buying into it and doing it. And I'm guessing not a long time because of it seems your personality type is sort of suited for this kind of thing. I'm guessing from what I know of you, but did you struggle? Most people, the biggest obstacle people seem to run into is like, well, you're much braver than me, or you're much stronger than me. And I don't believe that to be true. So what was the process where you're like, oh, well, I hear what this guy, not necessarily me, but anything, the Claire Weeks books,
Yeah.
I hear what everybody's saying, but this is, how did you get from like, that sounds effing crazy, I'm supposed to go into the fear, to like, all right, I'm doing this. Like this, that's the process that goes through.
So one, I think I imagine a lot of people had my frame of thought was, for 10 years, all I did was I kind of just, I always fantasized about the day that I no longer had this issue. I fantasized like I have plans like, oh yeah, a couple months from now, I'll be fine. I'll be doing things. It was kind of like I was expecting to just one day wake up and it wasn't there. Like a switch was going to go off in my brain and everything was going to be fine. And in that 10 years, I had attempted to do some things with no plan in place, no structure, no help, no idea what the hell I was doing. It was just, I have to go and do this. And I would white knuckle it the whole time and be terrified. But then I'd get home and it was like I was on reprieve. Like if I had to go 5 miles, then for like the next week, 2 miles, I was like, I could do this. This is not a thing. But then eventually I would start to panic and kind of revert back. What really shook me was being in that dark sensitized state. I was in there one other time before, and that was when I was coming off of SSRIs that I was on for a very short period of time. And I think kind of like you, I had to go through that withdrawal and it was a nightmare. But I knew it was medicine, so I kind of understood what was happening. Eventually I came out and I was fine for a while. This time, this wasn't anything medication. This was just absolute hell. And I was at the point of just absolute desperation. I didn't want to feel like this anymore. And I watched two of your videos stand out, and they're still my all-time favorites. Is the one of them, you were on your bike and you talk about you just had a panic attack and what you did. The second one, which is probably my favorite, is the one where you're just having an honest chat. I think you were driving to your office and you just said, fuck this, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Right.
And that really just kind of came to me, and that just really hit home. And I remember the first probably 3 to 4 weeks I would play that video like it was like my workout music. It was like my psych up video, like, all right, I'm gonna watch this. Sometimes I play it on my iPad while I was driving. And then that's just where it came. And it's just, and then I started kind of stacking those victories of, it took me a couple weeks until 7-Eleven was no longer an issue. And then it was like, okay, the grocery store, much bigger place, big parking lot, a little bit further. And that took, a couple more weeks till it kind of became something easier. Right. And that's what it is. I haven't gotten to the point where I can just, okay, today I can drive, I'm going to add another half mile. I'm not making big, giant leaps. I'm allowing myself to basically, first time I do something, it's usually a panic attack or super high anxiety. And then I let it become something that's tolerable. And then it's a no big deal. And when it's a no big deal, that's when I say, okay, time for the next step. And sometimes it takes a few days. Sometimes it takes like a week or two.
But I'm guessing those steps are shorter now. Like maybe the supermarket took three weeks. And I remember you posting your videos of like struggling a bit in the supermarket. But I'm guessing that now each successive leap forward or step forward is a shorter time duration. Maybe only a few days. Maybe you're not going to be stuck there for 3 weeks before you can do the next half mile or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm going quicker. I'm actually really looking forward to a couple of exposures I got planned for over the next couple of days because it's finally going to be something more entertaining than going and buying chicken nuggets.
So, sometimes that gets so boring. I've heard people say that too. Like, and I remember just driving around my neighborhood, like, this is horrifically mind-numbingly boring, but you got to do what you got to do. So it's
Yeah,
nice when you
exactly.
can have an actual target, like maybe an event to go to or something you really want to do, or,
Yeah.
totally get it. Well, that's good. It's a super good story. And it's just as an aside, it's so strange to hear somebody say, like, you're listening to me as like almost like pump up music. Like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to get used to that, but I'm glad it helped.
Oh yeah.
We've been at it for about 15 minutes or so. So let's take some questions. Yes.
Yeah.
My screen is over here, so I'm not being rude. I'm just going to read. Um, we had about 15 or so questions, which I think were great from the group. Molly asked, like, how do you stay positive when setbacks happen? Like, you always seem so positive and you're like a glass half full kind of guy, which it seems like you are. It's awesome.
Oh. Honestly, it's something new I'm trying to be super optimistic as much as I can. Um,
So
honestly,
that's not your natural, or hasn't been in the past, I'm guessing.
not always. I'm a very funny person. At least that's what I'm told.
Yeah.
I like to have fun, but I get down, I get depressed, but staying motivated, like the last couple of days, I've been very anxious throughout the day. I have moments where I'm not so anxious, and what keeps me motivated is one, I don't want to go back. I don't want to start taking steps backwards because I did that for 10 years. To take one step forward, two steps back. I'm not that guy anymore. I will not let that happen. That, and kind of as you start to get out there and you start to do more and more and more, it motivates you to want to do more
Mhm.
because it becomes something that you're terrified of doing. It's starting to feel kind of exciting, like it's kind of like you're, I don't want to say a sadist, but you're just like you kind of you enjoy the burn. Like when you work out, you're like, oh, this is going to be terrible, but it's also going to be so good. So
Yeah.
it,
Well, because there's a result at the end. You see a
it,
result.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, which is great. So that's good, and I think that speaks to that thing you were talking about. That, like, I refuse to live like this anymore. At some
Yeah.
point, you make that decision that says, okay, I'm having a rough couple of days because I'm feeling anxiety, but you also have a really good grip on the fact that, like, that's okay. It's not a setback because you're anxious. The
Oh, well,
setback would be if you just retreated back in and stopped. That would be setback. Feeling
that
lazy
and
is
then
not a.
yeah, what people consider a setback is, like I haven't been anxious for like a couple weeks, and now all of a sudden I'm anxious again. Well, the way I look at it, especially when it comes to my exposures, is years and years ago when I didn't work for myself, I was that jerk that would come to work sick because my thought was, well, I could stay at home and feel like crap and watch The Price is Right, or I can get paid to feel like crap. I'd rather get paid to feel like crap. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's with my anxiety. It's like, well, if I'm going to be anxious, I might as well still do something. I might as well still get out there, and it doesn't matter. Do I want to feel like crap at home, or do I want to feel like crap and still do something?
In a way, get paid to be anxious. Like, you could be anxious productively as opposed to
Exactly.
passively, just sitting and waiting to not be anxious. So
Oh yeah.
that's good. That's a great answer. Let's move on to what. Let's see, Laura. I watched yesterday. Watched you and Billy's this video. What's your take? What's Andrew's take on formulating an action plan? Do you have a written plan, or you just think of a challenge and do it right away? Like, what? Let me just see. I was digesting some hard truths. Why she avoids writing a plan. But so, I mean, you do seem to be very methodical about this. You know.
So I have certain destinations that I want to get to. One, the biggest thing that I'm not doing to myself is I'm not putting myself on a timeline for like some big giant goal. I'm not trying to put myself on a timeline even for smaller goals. It's kind of like I will get there. Every day that I don't stay home is a victory. Every day that I go out is a victory. I get bigger victories when I push and go a little bit further. So right now, there's things that I want to do north, east, south, and west of me.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of just I try to make sure that I'm going different directions. I think you said in like a video with Billy, like how you could go to the same place, 50 times, and all of a sudden you take a different way, and it's all of a sudden really hard again.
Yeah, it's a
So,
new
and
thing.
yeah, and I was feeling that. So again, I know there's certain landmarks that I want to hit. So I kind of do smaller steps to get me there. I don't have like a written plan. I don't have a timetable. Um, I know where I want to go, and I kind of just have it down. Okay, these are the steps I need to take to get there.
Yeah, and it seems like you have a good grip on, as opposed to saying, "Well, I need to get to, like, a Knights game, like, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to do that next week." Well, you're building it bit by bit to get to that, as
Yes,
opposed to,
exactly.
giant exposures, every once in a while. You're doing little things every single day. So
Exactly. Yes.
I think I'll chime in a little bit, on that question. Like, some people do better with a written plan. Some people do better with a therapist giving them a plan. This week you're going to
Mhm.
do this, then this, and this, like homework. But it's kind of an individual thing, I would say. Some people can just keep
Yeah.
it up here. Some people wing
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So I think you're doing it right, though. So Adam asks two questions, three questions, two questions actually. One, how do you know that you're doing it right? And at what stage does the penny drop? I'm not sure what that. I'm not sure the penny drop thing, but how do
Yeah.
you know that you're doing it right? Like, how did you know? You've tried some stuff before. So
Yeah.
how did you know? Like, oh wait, now this is right. This is working now.
Well, in the beginning, again, the years that I was kind of dealing with this on my own, no YouTube, no, that anxiety guy or anything else. It was, I would go out until I felt like crap, and then I would revert back. And then I'd go out, and if I felt like crap, I'd come back. And I found a recording from Dr. Claire Weeks where something like that. And that's the way he approached his exposures. He would go out as far as he could, and the moment he felt panic, he would retreat, and he would just kind of keep pushing. He got to the point where, funny enough, he flew all the way to Las Vegas, and then one day he went to the bank, had a panic attack, and just like, oh my God, my life is over, went back and became agoraphobic again. And it was like, well, he didn't learn anything because he was scared. I knew that I was doing it right because Dr. Claire Weeks, you, basically everyone in this group says it's gonna suck and it's supposed to suck. The video you did with Jackie was so helpful because just hearing her saying I was terrified, I was like, well, check, I got that one down.
Nailed it.
Exactly, I'm good at this.
Yeah,
And then and then I just, I could feel again, the first time I went to the 7-Eleven, I commented like on a video or something. I can't remember what I commented on, but I addressed you and I said, I just went to I just made it to 7-Eleven and back. I did it. And you literally replied, not good job, or you did say good job, but not like congratulations, go, relax. It was cool, go do it again. I was like, great. So I jumped right. I was like, thanks, buddy. I was like, you should be a personal trainer.
Do it again.
Exactly. So I just said, all right, this guy probably knows what he's talking about. So I jumped in the car and went back, and I kind of made it a thing. And I asked you, I said, how often should I do this? And you're like, why should you ever stop? I was like, oh, all right. So 7-Eleven was seriously 3, 4, or 5 times a day. I just kept going, and I knew it was working because it stopped being so terrifying. And then as I moved on, I learned I'm learning still how to not be afraid of when I am panicky or when I am anxious. I'm anxious right now. I could not care less.
I can see it. It's just you do not care. I can't see you're anxious. Care. I can see that you just flat out don't give a rat's ass.
Exactly.
Yeah, huge difference.
Oh yeah.
So the second question that Adam asked, which is a good question, and you feel free to withhold whatever you want to withhold here. How do you do it? Can you do it without the support of family and friends? I mean, I know you have someone in the group with you as your wife, your sister. I'm not sure who you invited in.
Yeah.
But I've seen them cheer you on a little bit.
Yeah, my wife is in the group. She doesn't have any issues. She's moral support. She likes to, see what it is that I'm doing. And then my sister is in the group because she has her own anxiety issues. She doesn't really chime in, but I know that she's seeing the content. She's very appreciative of it. I mean, can you do it without family and friends? I mean, I am very fortunate. I'm a very, very close-knit family. I'm the oldest of 6. I've got amazing parents. I have 4 kids, 5 dogs, a wife. I mean, I have a huge team in my corner.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's very loud here. But at the end of the day, they could all get in the car with me and like everyone pile in. The end of the day, I have to walk it. I have to do it. So their love and their support being there for me is amazing. But I don't talk to them anymore about when I'm anxious. My wife occasionally she'll see it. She'll be like, "You anxious right now?" I'm like, "Yeah." She'll be like, "Oh, all right." And I just tell her, I'm like, "I no big deal." Yeah, that's it. I don't need her to feel bad for me. I don't need her to console me. It's just because it's not going to make me better. I don't need anyone to understand what I'm going through because it doesn't help me. I just need to need to do me. Exactly. I just need to do me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. So I guess, Adam, to answer that question, like, I mean, it certainly is nice to have the support of family or friends, but
Yeah.
I don't believe, and I think Andrew's answer is excellent. Like, it's not absolutely required because in the end, it's on us anyway.
Exactly.
So it's a good answer. So Rihanna says, I find that my anxiety, I have very sticking thoughts, I guess obsessive thoughts. I will be obsessed about one feeling, then it switches to another feeling, then there's always something wrong with me. I feel like I always have to have something wrong with me. And Molly was kind of in on that too. Like, have you found that, where as you've gone through this process, that you kind of focus on one thing or another? I mean, and I think people seem to do it symptomatically. Like, this week it's my dizziness. Next week it's my stomach. The week after that it's my heart. The week after that I feel like I can't breathe. Have you gone through any of that?
So I was able to really quickly get through the physical sensations just because most of those physical sensations I feel when I'm working out anyways.
Very good.
So it's weird when you're having a panic attack. I'm not doing heavy squats, so why am I feeling dizzy and lightheaded and out of breath?
Yeah.
But it really just sunk in. I mean, really understanding what's happening in a panic attack. It's like, okay, this is just my body doing something that it normally does. I'm just going to trust my body right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight my body. My body's just going to do what it's going to do. My thing, and still kind of my thing, is just the thoughts. And when she talks about sticky thoughts, there were times where, it was one particular thought, especially when it was in that dark place. It was always, is this going to drive me to do something bad? Is this going to drive me to hurt myself? Which was really weird because I'm scared to die. But I'm like, is this going to make me kill myself? Like, that's just a really weird thing. And I was working with a therapist for a time, and he had me trying to list out these thoughts and do all this stuff. Someone in the group was just talking about this yesterday, and then another person replied with the identical form that I was filling out and trying to write down your thoughts and put the lie to them, distort them, this, that, whatever. And that didn't work for me, just because it was like all I'm doing all day long is just writing down these thoughts. What I had to learn to do, and what helped me, was just keep myself busy, not distracting, but just go about my day and just let them be there. And I've said so many times in videos, just like that toddler screaming in your ear, just let them scream. And it sucks because the biggest thing is you can't want it to go away. If you want it to stop, you're inviting it to stay. If you just let it be there, you get to the point where I was always saying, like, I hope I'm better by Christmas. That was my thing. I want to be better by Christmas. I don't want this to ruin Christmas for me. And sometime in like November, I was like, you know what? I don't care, because I'm still going to enjoy myself. I'm still going to have fun. I don't care. It doesn't have to go away. Right. And when I stopped caring so much, it dramatically came down, but it takes time. It's like, if you have to lose 50 pounds, you can't work out one day, eat healthy for one day and say, well, how come it didn't work? It takes time. You have to keep working at it. And I'm much better today than I was.
And these are behaviors and thought patterns, because thinking is behavior also, that are ingrained over years. 10 years, you mentioned 10 years. So they don't go away in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They just don't.
Exactly.
You're extinguishing certain behaviors and replacing them with others, whether those are physical behaviors or cognitive behaviors. And that is a time-consuming thing. So let's see here. The next question, which we touched on a little bit, Diane, I got to mention Diane. I don't have a question. I just want to let Andrew know that he is crushing it, which you are, dude. So good, Diane. So Laurie asks, my question is, and we went over this, but we'll touch on it for a second. My question is, when you started exposure, did you always stay in the place you were panicking, or did you head back home? And you talked about that. That's how you knew you were doing it right, when you would not retreat and you would stay there. And I remember seeing a video where you went to the supermarket, you struggled a bit, you went out to the parking lot, you went back in. And I think you got a text from your wife while you were sitting in the car.
Yes.
About getting something else. Yeah, like, so you had to go back
nuggets.
That's it, the chicken nuggets. So yeah, I think the answer to that is you would stay there. You were not retreating, but stay in the anxiety and even the panic, correct?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm very proud of with myself, and this isn't what I'm not trying to like challenge anyone, say like, you got to do this too, but
Mhm.
I have yet to retreat. I don't care how bad the anxiety's been. My second time going into the grocery store, if you go backlog through all the photos on Facebook, you're going to find a picture of me where I just look very pissed. And actually, I'm just shitting my pants, but I look very angry. And that was my first time in the grocery store. My goal for that day was just to go in, take a picture so I could prove I was there and go
Yeah.
home. The
Okay.
next day, the next day I went and bought my wife flowers, and I walked into the store. The florist is right up front. I
Mhm.
grabbed the flowers and I was in full blown panic. And I started walking towards the door. I put the flowers back. I got to the doors and I literally said out loud, F this. I'm not going. Because I started to feel walking away. I was like, screw this. You don't win. I went, I got flowers. I came home. I gave him a big kiss and said, you friggin' deserve these. These are 10 years coming, you know?
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
that to me was, I was still so anxious at giving them to her. I was shaking giving them to her, but I was proud and I was also kind of angry at the same time. I was like, why was that so hard? But
Such a common thing. Such a common thing.
yeah,
Why did I wait 10 years to do that? Like that thing hits, you know? Yeah.
exactly.
I think what you just said, that moment, like, F this, like, you don't win, I win. Like,
Exactly.
somehow that has to be part of this equation at some point. Like, you,
There there's a motivational video. Again, I'm all about motivational things. I'm a personal trainer, sue
you
me.
better be. Right. You better be.
Exactly. There's a guy, I always forget his name. He's like a reverend. He speaks to like troubled youth. He goes to inner city schools and stuff like that. He's got great videos on there. And one thing that I love that he says is most people when they get tired they quit. And he said that what does he say? He's like you're already in pain, you're already hurt. Get a reward from it. Don't cry to quit. Cry to keep going. And that's something that I'll say to myself. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm already here. I'm already panicking. I already feel like crap. Let me do what I came here to do.
Right.
And you know what? And that to me kind of just, that's why I don't retreat. I came
I,
here for a reason. I'm not leaving this store without
right.
what I came for.
And I think if I could frame that in, I mean, that's a story of just like determination and to a certain degree strength and like a willingness to see it through. But the
Yeah.
nuts and bolts of that, which really think about it this way. So if you're having a hard time saying like, well, Andrew does that, there's no way. Like Drew did that, Andrew does that. I could never do that. But the reason why you want to do that is no matter what happens, that panic state is going to come and go, no matter what you do. So
Exactly.
you can either panic productively and actually accomplish something, or you could just retreat and panic for no reason. Like
Yeah.
run back home or run to the car and retreat from it and say, this is hard, I hate this, I can't do it. And you've actually made no steps forward. But that panic, those feelings could be a step forward. So
Yeah.
use it as opposed to letting it be worthless.
That, and the biggest thing too is it's just, I don't know if I heard it from you, if I heard it somewhere else, but Danny talks about it a lot. We're retraining our brain, and that's
Mhm.
another trick that I use. When I'm anxious, I go. If I feel like I'm having just a very anxious day, I do more that day. I do more exposures because
Mhm.
I look at it as my brain gets. I'm right now. My brain is thirsty for knowledge. I get to teach it so much. I'm going to do so much more today, feeling like crap, than I will tomorrow if I felt good. My
Yeah.
brain is learning more. I'm teaching it new behaviors. I'm teaching it how to react to panic. I'm
Yes.
teaching myself. And it's that is an amazing place to get to.
In the end, you're taking your brain to class almost every day, is what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lori had a quick follow up. I'll answer this one. Also, did you feel like you would lose it or go nuts when panicked? Did you stay? I'll answer that one. Yes, he did. Because we all feel the same thing. So if you want to ask, did you feel like you would go insane? Did you feel like you would die? Would you feel like you would pass out? Did you feel like you would vomit? Would you feel, all of those things? Yes, the answer is yes, 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 yes. Everybody feels them. They're all the same. We all feel the same things, or at least a similar range of symptoms. And yes, the answer is yes. Felt that, but stayed anyway. So
Yep.
because you never
Absolutely.
go nuts, never go nuts, never lose it.
Nope.
Let's see how many more we have, because I don't want to keep you too long. Let's see.
No, I'm fine. My next
You got
appointment
time?
actually
You're
just
okay.
canceled on me, so I'm good. I'm
All right,
good.
let's just shoot the shit, man. Yeah, let's
Let's
see.
do it.
Let's do it. All right, so let's talk about Jared asks, Andrew, in your last exposure video, you said your anxiety was quite high. You look and spoke quite normally. Is that due to a lot of practicing, focusing on surroundings versus sensations? Like, are you grounding? He feels like when he's anxious, his thoughts and words process at a lower rate, like he sort of gets dumber, which I think we've all experienced that
Oh
before,
yeah.
or at least think you do. But most
Yeah.
people looking from the outside in, Jared would probably say, well, I really couldn't tell.
Honestly, Jared, pull out your camera and start videotaping yourself doing
Thank you.
exposures.
Yes, and then watch it back just for
You're gonna
yourself. Yeah.
show it to someone. Say, what do I look like? What do you think I'm thinking right now? Most people, it's not. You're not. I'm not walking through the store like. That's not. Yeah, it's that's not what you look
But
like.
it feels like it. I mean, we have to
Yeah.
acknowledge it probably feels like I'm just like in this, like a roller coaster, but you
Yeah.
never really looked at it.
And if you watch some of my videos when I'm in the car and I'm driving, sometimes you can kind of, if you really look for it, you can see when a thought pops into my head, because I'll be mid dialogue and then I'll start not skipping my words, but I'm talking at a little bit of a slower rate. You can see that I'm processing something in my head, but I'm still, I can still chew gum and walk. I can still, I don't forget how to drive the car or how to get home. It's a big thing, kind of like, what you just answered. I constantly like, I'm going to get amnesia. Well, it hasn't happened in the 10,000 other panic attacks I've had. So why is this one going to be special? So, and on top of, if I get amnesia, friggin' bonus round, I don't have to worry about doing exposures anymore.
Won't matter. You'll forget you're agoraphobic, right? It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, bonus. I'm with you on that 100%. I think that advice, like video yourself, is really, really, really helpful. I did a video. It's old now. It's a couple of years old. I'll try and link it if I can. I was in the car and I talked about checking your body language and like point the camera at yourself, dude. Like, even if you don't ever show it to anybody, just for yourself, and then watch it back that night, and you'll see like, oh, I do this, I do this, I do this, and it can help you start to extinguish those little tics and rituals.
Yeah, actually, I saw that video, and that's one of the reasons why I started videoing myself. And luckily, my wife was nice enough to get me something like a car mount for the longest time. I'm driving, and I'm driving. I'm like, oh, cop, hold on. Okay, now we're back.
Yeah, done that. Got to put the camera down. It's a thing. Let's see here. So that was Jared thing. Kevin, how do you feel about having come so far? Well, I've got to believe you feel really damn good.
I feel really good. It's in the beginning, it's nice to be able to go out and do things. It's amazing because my kids are getting old enough where they're going to start retaining memories, and I don't want them to have at least an extensive memory of daddy doesn't go places. Very early on, I made it to my son's last T-ball game of the season. I was terrified, but I was so happy that I went. I actually enjoyed myself at the game, got a hot dog. I felt great. I paid for it later. I was very anxious the rest of the day, but I remember just kept telling myself, I don't care how anxious I feel. No one can take that away from me. I was at my son's game, and it was amazing. And the other thing too is it's kind of funny now. It's I went to the health food store the other day. That's where I did that video. It was the first time going there, and I came home. I told my wife, and she was like, "Good job!" And she's talking to me like I'm I'm my 2-year-old that's being potty training right now. I'm like,
not good, right?
Yeah, I'm like, like, okay, you know what? Say that when I get to the Knights game, or say that when I get on a plane.
Right, exactly. Well, actually, to follow up on that, Heather says, what are some of your ultimate goals? But you kind of said that. You don't really necessarily have a specific, like, oh, I need to get to Paris or whatever it is.
I do have some long-term goals. And again, I'm not setting a timetable on it, but one, I said very early on when I joined this group, I'm going to go on a worldwide tour, and I'm going to come by and give everyone a high five. So damn it, I had to make friends with Danny. She lives as far away from me as she could possibly be.
I know, it's ridiculous. We say that all the time.
And I've got to go see, Billy said he's going to take me to a castle, so I got to go see Billy. I'm going to get you to I'm going to take you to a Yankees game or something. And and see everyone on, all 50 states. This
Gonna
group's
be
pretty
good.
big. So
At
yeah.
some point, I got to get to Vegas. Like, I have not been to Vegas. I have to go just to go. So,
Well, if you go, give me a heads up so I can at least try and make my way down to the Strip, because I imagine that's where you're going to want to be. These crazy people come to Las Vegas and they just for some reason got to go to the Strip. So
what else is there? Well, we'll lift. How's that?
there you go. I got you there.
Got you covered, right? So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's go to let's say when both of you feel like you're having a bad day, anxiety sneaks up. This is Raven. What keeps you both motivated and going? Well, we already kind of talked about that. Like, how do you not be down? If there was one thing you could say to somebody who is struggling in the struggling stages and feels helpless and scared, what would you say about what you've gone through and where you are now?
One, it's not a life sentence.
Nice. Okay.
It is not a life sentence. You are here as long as you need to be. Truly, truly, don't just watch the videos that Drew puts out or anyone else puts out. Really try to absorb it. And again, when you feel like crap, when those thoughts just won't leave you alone or those sensations won't leave you alone, just continue to live life. You really have to get to the point. It's the simplest thing to do. It's so not simple to explain it. You have to, this is you getting frustrated the other day in the video. It's like, stop. And anytime you feel something, don't acknowledge it. Don't give it any respect. Don't post in the group that, oh, this is what I'm feeling. And I'm not coming down on anyone that does that. But all you're doing is you're kind of just, you're just continuing the thought process. You're chasing the thought. You're naming the sensation. You're kind of feeling bad for yourself. Don't do that. Just say, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to feel like crap today, but you know what? I'm still going to do the dishes and I'm still going to take the dog for a walk, those things.
Right.
And understand it's going to feel like crap and it's supposed to feel like crap. It's going to be that way for weeks or months or however long it's going to take. And then one day you're going to notice that, hey, I didn't feel like crap for like the last hour. I've actually not been feeling anxious. And then over time it becomes, like me, I feel anxious right now, but I have a great couple of days. And
yeah,
that and the other thing too, that I had to come to the realization of myself is don't mistake not being like happy or enthusiastic with being anxious. We're not always, in the best of moods. Sometimes you're just a little blah. We all have blah days. Normal people have blah. We're all normal, but everyone has a blah day. And when you have just not motivated, I'm not super happy, I'm not enthused, that's not anxiety. That's just being human. So don't confuse that with I'm having a setback or I'm anxious, or it's just, no, you're just human. You're just having emotions. That's all.
Right. And I think I'll add to that and say it's not so much that one day you'll notice that you weren't anxious for the last hour. One day you'll notice that you're not thinking about how you feel.
Yeah.
Might have been anxious, might have not been anxious, don't know. Like didn't care, weren't scanning, weren't looking, weren't evaluating how you feel. And
exactly.
That's a day. Yeah. And it'll happen for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, maybe only. But that's a huge, like, awesome. Like you feel normal for a little while.
And don't try and cling to that feeling, because then you kind of like chase it away. Just let that just be a learning lesson for you. Say, okay, like come to that realization. Oh shit, this works, because I had that relief. I had that I didn't care how I felt, and you can be proud of yourself even if you feel anxious. You could say, well, I did it once, and I know I'm going to do it again, and that's how you start stacking up those victories.
Right. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a really good answer. All right, so let's move on here. We had 3 questions here, and then that was the end of it. So let's see. Well, these are my questions. Why do I feel better in certain situations and not in others? I mean, I could kind of answer that, but I mean, why do you think that is? Do you have that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I was hoping that I was like, give me an example, so I really know how to answer it. But
you know what? I could flesh it out a little bit. I think what he might be talking about here is why do I feel better in certain situations and not in others? Usually, you feel better in a situation you feel safer in. Like it's either in your safe zone, which for some people is just their house or their sofa even, or in that little, like you said, you were contented agoraphobic, like you could do what you needed to do to get by, and you felt okay in that little bubble.
Yeah.
And usually you feel worse in certain situations because you're outside the bubble, man. Like you're in what is unsafe to your brain territory.
Yeah, because you've trained your brain to be afraid of something. It's not that you've trained your brain to be afraid. You've trained your brain to avoid what you fear.
Right.
And that's obviously why you're going to feel kind of crappy. And it's again, when you feel crappy, be proud, especially because you're probably doing something. Like if you're intentionally making yourself feel like crap, that's a great thing because you're desensitizing yourself from that to that situation. That's really kind of the best answer I can give right there.
No, it's a great answer, and I think that's why you feel worse in certain situations because you're in a place where you haven't engineered your brain to say, "Well, I'm safe here," but you're safe everywhere. You're safe in the end. You're safe everywhere. I was doing so well, and then out of the blue, I got a setback. I feel the terms I used to accept no longer carry any weight. They feel meaningless when I say them to myself. Okay, well, when I say it's only a bad habit, I'll answer that. I'll answer that.
Go for
it. So the answer to that question, first of all, we talked about setbacks. Like a setback is not that you feel bad. A setback is what you do with it. So you're not trying to extinguish your anxiety. You're trying to get to the point where you're just not caring that you're feeling a given way. And the terms I used to accept are no longer valid. And I chime in on this one, I guess. I talked about this a couple of months ago when that positive self-talk is bullshit thing, and I will stand behind that. Those are things you can do when you're, home at night and you're ending your day and you're thinking and you're making a plan for tomorrow and you want to go through those things and challenge your thoughts logically. Great. But when you feel bad, you will never, ever, ever convince your anxious and terrified mind that you are okay. Never.
Yeah.
It will win every single time. So I'm guessing that when you are out and you're pushing a little bit, and in the beginning, when you were in that 7-Eleven, you're in that grocery store for the first time, there may have been a little bit of like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. But did you find that like, I'm okay is meaningless because your brain will always come back to, no, you're not.
Yeah.
What if will always win when you're anxious and panicked? Always. So that never your goal is to be able to talk yourself out of panic. Never.
I never had like a mantra, and I think that might be what he's doing is kind of
ask that. Do you have a mantra? Do you have phrases you use?
The only thing I ever said to myself very early on, I remember when I first went into the grocery store, I kept telling myself, I'm not going to add a second fear. I'm not going to add a second fear. That was the whole thing. And I was kind of convincing myself that I'm not going to do that. So it helped I'm not trying to avoid panic. I'm exposing myself to it. Come and get me. If you're going to do it, come and get me and then watch how I react. Because you're not getting anything from me. And again, you can't, it's not positive talk. One thing that I do is I will do like positive affirmations, but that's not when I'm anxious. That's something to kind of get myself going in the day that, I am a good person. I am worthy of abundance, that kind of stuff. Think of it kind of like, anyone who has kids or at least younger siblings, I don't try and tell my kids what they did wrong once I just put them in timeout. They're screaming because they're in timeout. I'm not, no, I cannot reason with you right now. I'm going to let you scream and cry. You're eventually going to tire yourself out. And one of my kids is pretty friggin' determined, but it's like, I will talk to you when you are rational. And finally they calm down. They're not sobbing anymore. Then I come over. Why did I put you in timeout? What did you do wrong here? And now they can understand and I can teach them the lesson and move on. So when you're really anxious, do what you got to do. If you're anxious while you're doing the dishes, just keep doing the dishes. If you got anxious while you were driving the car, just get to your destination. Do what you have to do. That's where the floating comes in. Let it be there. And then later, as the anxiety comes down, then if you want to talk to yourself, then psych yourself up. Be like, you see that shit? I didn't care how anxious I was. I did it anyways.
But the mantras and the analysis and the challenging of thoughts and countering thoughts, that only can happen when you're calm and rational. So if it will never work when you're in the midst of the anxiety and the panic. It just doesn't work. Makes it worse sometimes.
And see, exactly, and that's where very early on in the video I was telling you about when I was seeing that psychologist. I could not hear what he was saying. I had to learn, and what I did not learn from him, but I learned in this group and from your videos and Dr. Claire Weeks, and God, thank you so much for the videos you did with Holly, by the way.
Welcome.
Learning how just to float. That's what I needed. Once I was able to do that, I could then hear what that therapist was trying to tell me, and I could really start doing some of the CBT work. You can't talk to me like, it's why, your family cannot tell you to calm down when you're in the middle of a panic attack. That's
right. That's an excellent point. Like, people get angry and literally angry and post about that stuff. Can you believe it? My husband just told me to calm down. That's crazy. Well, why do you think that he shouldn't tell you to calm down, but you should be able to tell yourself to calm down? Why is it bad when he says it, but okay when you say it? So when you are in the thick of it and the shit is hitting the fan, you cannot do I'm okay. You cannot have mantras and chants and things that will convince you that you're okay. It makes it worse because it doesn't work. So therefore it's like, I can't calm down. I can't calm down. I can't calm down. The object of the game is be non-reactive, and ultimately you will calm down.
And you just start that whole fear cycle again. It's just I'm telling myself to calm down. I want to calm down, but I'm not calming down. So I'm scared because I can't calm down. I'll never calm down.
Makes it worse.
And your body's just like, more adrenaline. Okay, pump some more. Okay,
no problem.
You just prolong it.
Yeah, it's not good. His third question was, and this is Fortunato, by the way. What does it feel like to be fully recovered, and how do you know? I know you necessarily wouldn't call yourself fully recovered. I will give you my answer to that. When I stopped thinking about what I was going to do next, that's when I knew. Like when I didn't have to have a plan, or I no longer anticipated or cared what was coming up on my agenda, what I have to travel, what I have to, be in the city, it didn't matter anymore. Like regular people do. They just live life as it comes at them for the most part. And like, oh, next week I have to be in wherever, I have to be in Florida next week. Okay. Like, I didn't even think about it. That's when you know. So when you're no longer thinking about what's coming up because of how you might feel, or will this be hard? Will I be able to do it? I never question anymore, will I be able to do this? Because So I don't know if you have feelings along that. It's like, what is that changing? Are you getting toward that now?
I can feel it coming, because if my wife says you need to go to the store and get this, it's all right. I guess I'm going to the store. The things that I do now, that are not really that much of an issue, or not an issue at all to me. I can feel that that's what it's like. I'm getting a little taste of what full recovery is going to be like. But for now, I'm just enjoying the ride. So
that's good. You have such a good attitude about it, man. Such a good attitude about it.
Thank you.
So helpful in sharing all these things. So we're out of questions, dude. We just about 55 minutes. You got anything you want to add? Any closing thoughts? We covered everything.
Pretty much. Just don't feel that you have to do exactly like I did, or do exactly like someone else in the group is. You kind of find your own way. It's completely customizable to the individual. The challenge that I tried to start or that I'm starting in the group, again, this isn't a competition. It's all I want people to challenge themselves. I need to challenge myself to just take that next step. And again, the biggest point I can make is it's supposed to suck. It's supposed to scare the crap out of you. But anything worth doing in life, you gotta take some work. It takes some effort. And again, it's not a life sentence. I will get past this. I am 100% committed. Nothing's stopping me. And everyone has the same strength within them to face their fears and to ultimately beat that. You're no braver than me. I'm no braver than you. It's you will find your spark. You gotta want it.
It's good. It's a good way to end. So thanks, man. I so appreciate you taking an hour of your life to do this. It'll be so helpful to many people. I'm sure they appreciate it too. And I guess we'll wrap it up here.
All right.
Maybe we'll do another one day from a hockey game.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, brother. Let me hit the stop recording button. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Catch you later.
Hey, what's up, guys? Drew here. In the 5 years that I've done the podcast, I've never had a sponsor. But now it's time for me to put in a little plug for the day job, the business that I own. And that business is managed WordPress hosting. So if you have a website and it runs WordPress, and you'd like WordPress hosting that makes WordPress faster, more secure, and way easier than you ever imagined it would be, then check out Helix. You can find us online at imhelix.com. That's IAMHELIX.com. We took a long time to build Helix. I'm super proud of it. It works spectacularly. We take really good care of our customers, and I promise we would take really good care of you too. So if you're in the market for WordPress hosting that will blow your mind, check out Helix. I would appreciate the consideration. I thank you for coming by and listening, and I'll see you the next time.